Lord Aethel, do you truly believe that humans could reject a cosmic entity who gifted them simplicity? Ambassador Xylos, manifesting in flickering tendrils of skeptical light. Almost sublimated, all sentient species crave minimalism. Clarity. It is the ultimate goal of existence. I took a sip of the amber liquid. Its sweet warmth spreading. Galactic Alliance receptions, as usual, were always where the strangest notions were aired. They did, I calmly replied, and they had good reason. Good reason? Xylos's light contracted into tiny pinpricks, indicating extreme astonishment. The god of simplicity, the one who purged complexity from every aspect of life. You jest, Major Arya? Oh no, I'm quite serious. I set my glass on a serving table. To understand, you must know one thing about humans and our relationship with simplicity. We don't just seek it. We create it. Around us, the Alliance Station's grand reception hall hummed with the murmur of dozens of species. Ambassador Xylos gestured towards a secluded alcove. As we moved, some other diplomats, including the ambassador of the Khater insectoid species and a pulsating cube from the Synth Collective, began to drift our way, their curiosity unconcealed. Please, Arya, Xylos said once we were settled in relative privacy. I find humanity's thesis so unusual. In our culture, the great simplifier, Simplax, is absolutely revered. The notion of abandoning such a deity is incomprehensible. It wasn't an abandonment, Ambassador. I shrugged. It was more like a customer service review that the deity failed to pass. We found ourselves dissatisfied. The story, as humans tell it, began long ago, when humanity still grappled with the complexities of the natural world and social concepts. Back then, we had Lord Aethel, the god of simplicity. Aethel specialized in making complex things simple, turning cumbersome machines into crude tools, tangled philosophies into basic rules, multi-layered societies into compact, easy-to-understand communities. He was worshipped for reducing mental burdens, bringing ease. But humans, you see, never settle for ease. We always seek more complex things to conquer, to comprehend. Hold on. Ambassador Khater's mandibles clicked. You expected complexity from a cosmic entity of reduction? Precisely. I nodded. We don't just want ease. We want the understanding of difficult things. Please continue, Xylos urged, their light tendrils growing brighter with curiosity. Yes, Aethel, the wonderful god at reducing everything to its core. The problem was, he didn't understand the value of complexity. A true god of simplicity should understand that true simplicity isn't about removal, but about clarifying the underlying structure of complexity. Aethel, well, he was just good at cutting things until they were bare and meaningless. Humans soon realized this. Civilizations that leaned too heavily on Aethel, that trusted too much in his simplifications, often became mediocre. They didn't develop advanced technologies because they were too complex. They didn't create profound art because it was too tangled. Meanwhile, the thinkers, the scientists, the artists who dared to embrace complexity thrived. Your species has two concepts of simplicity? Ambassador Synth, the pulsating cube, asked. Oh, we have dozens of understandings, depending on context, I replied. But back to Aethel, our scientists, those who craved to truly understand the universe, began to notice Aethel's inadequacy. He would constantly simplify physical laws until they became useless formulas. He would simplify biological systems until they lost their life. So, they started conducting periodic fitness reviews of this deity. They reduced their prayers, focusing instead on more intricate, patience-demanding methods of inquiry. In one famous anecdote, Aethel attempted to simplify Einstein's relativity equations into a basic addition problem. Einstein was reportedly heard to say, "For God's sake, don't touch it, you're ruining everything." This is unprecedented, Xylos whispered. No species has ever evaluated their deity in this manner. Oh, we were just getting started, I said, taking a fresh glass of water. The real trouble began when we invented data science and artificial intelligence. You see, Aethel came from an era where humans were overwhelmed by too many choices. He understood the value of turning 50 choices into 2. But humans, resourceful little problem solvers that we are, decided that managing and navigating complexity was far more effective. We created algorithms to find patterns in billions of data points, not to eliminate them. Ethel hated that, despised it, called it meaningless clutter. But humans didn't particularly care what the god of simplicity thought about complex information processing. We kept innovating. Machine learning, neural networks, cosmic simulations, each taking us further from the notion of a single, complexity cleaner upper. With each innovation, Ethel became increasingly irrelevant. He'd appear in scientists' dreams, trying to simplify mathematical models until they were useless. He began to look more like a scary deity than a project manager who only knew how to cut things without understanding its value. A remarkable theological development, Ambassador Mew remarked, their gaseous form rippling in contemplation. Did your deity not attempt to adapt? That's precisely the problem, I answered. He did not, and humans have very little patience for entities who refuse to evolve with us. The real breaking point came during what we call the age of cosmic exploration, when humanity truly began to confront the infinite complexity of the galaxy. We built intricate starships, multifunctional space stations, and new cultures. Ethel was horrified, not by the scale of the achievements, but by the absence of his simplicity. Everything was too big, too diverse, too much information. In his frustration, Ethel tried to inspire a return to simple designs and easy choices. He appeared in engineers' dreams, encouraging them to remove redundant systems, complex interfaces, and unnecessary safety protocols. The result, as predicted, was disasters and inefficiency. Your deity actively gave bad engineering and safety advice? Ambassador Kater's antennae twitched in alarm. Indeed, and humans, being pragmatic creatures, began to seriously question our simple deity's competence. Some even suggested he was actively sabotaging us. This is where the story gets interesting. In an effort to simplify the controls of a new starship, a young engineer named Alara Vance was inspired by Ethel to remove nearly all secondary control panels. The consequence was the ship almost crashed into an asteroid when Alara was attempting to restore systems in chaos. Legend has it that Ethel appeared to her, praising the minimalism of the design. Alara, exhausted and furious at the stupidity, did something unprecedented in human theological history. She issued a service termination notice to a god. You don't understand. Alara is reported to have told the god of simplicity. True simplicity is in the elegance of a complex system, not its absence. You have failed to support our progress. You have become useless. And something strange happened then. According to the story, Ethel began to fade, just a little at first, like an outdated interface. The deity was confused, then panicked as he realized what was happening. Humanity was collectively losing faith, not just in him, but in the very concept of a singular entity of simplicity. You cannot decommission a god, Ethel is reported to have protested. Alara's reply has become legendary among human engineers. Watch us. This is truly disturbing. Ambassador Synth's translation unit conveyed. You imply that humanity's collective rejection had tangible effects on cosmic entities? That's our working theory, I shrugged. Although our theologians and quantum physicists have been arguing about the mechanics for centuries. This is where the story becomes more historical than mythical. After the age of cosmic exploration, we created self-learning AI systems, social structures that could self-regulate and evolve. Simplicity was no longer something granted from an external entity, but something we engineered through intentional complexity. Ethel, who had once been the master of simplification, was now just a distant memory. Surprisingly, though, Ethel didn't entirely vanish. He adapted, but too slowly and in the wrong direction. He became the patron not of elegant simplicity, but of laziness and willful ignorance. The deity who had once brought clarity now associated himself with the darker aspects of apathy and the rejection of complex things. Humanity collectively sent, do not accept, messages to this new version of Ethel. Software developers, urban planners, and ordinary citizens alike rejected him, instead creating intuitive user interfaces, smart cities, and complex but efficient solutions. The principles of necessary complexity, experience-driven design, and scalability, all human efforts to impose order and adaptability on something our former deity now represented as arbitrary reduction and limitation. The final blow came unexpectedly. As human interaction with our environment and technology grew more sophisticated, we developed something Ethel never anticipated: the capacity to embrace and manage complexity. Hold on. Xylos's light tendrils solidified in confusion. Your species, known throughout the galaxy for its adaptability, developed an aversion to divinely granted reduction? Not an aversion to reduction, I clarified, but an aversion to forced reduction. Humans will absolutely seek elegance and efficiency where it's needed. We're still very good at that part. But we began to see granted simplicity as a failure of our own ingenuity and problem-solving capacity. This is antithetical to Ethel. A god of simplicity cannot exist in a culture that views simplicity as a byproduct of mastering complexity, rather than a prerequisite. As humanity's relationship with complex problems evolved, Ethel found himself with fewer and fewer true worshippers. By the end of the 21st century, by the time humanity achieved FTL travel and joined the galactic community, Ethel had become more of a historical footnote than an active entity. He didn't die, in the traditional sense. I looked at the rapt faces of the ambassadors, each contemplating the theological implications of my narrative, became irrelevant. A strange silence settled in our quiet corner of the reception. Ambassador Xylos was the first to break it, one of their light tendrils gently touching the alcove wall. And now, you have no god of simplicity? No, I replied, no specific patron god. We create simplicity ourselves, when needed. I see, Xylos said, their voice carrying a mixture of awe and perhaps a touch of trepidation. That is very human. A few weeks after the diplomatic reception, I received a secure quantum-entangled dispatch from Ambassador Xylos. Major Aria. The ambassador began without preamble, their image flickering slightly over the quantum link. I thought you should know that the Xylos Council of Simplification has initiated what they are calling a divine optimization capability review of Simplax. I carefully kept my expression neutral, though internally I was quite surprised. The Xylos were one of the most minimalist adherent species in the Alliance. That's a remarkable development. Ambassador, may I ask what prompted this? Xylos's light tendrils shifted in what I recognized as their equivalent of a shrug. Primarily user data. Someone in our Ministry of Design compiled reports showing that designs executed under Simplax's divine guidance had a 45% higher error rate and 30% user rejection rate compared to those developed under our complex but intuitive design principles. I see, I replied carefully. And the Council of Simplification took this analysis well? Surprisingly, yes. It appears many had felt constrained by his oversimplifications but lacked the language to articulate it. Xylos paused. Your account of human theological evolution provided that language. I winced slightly. Ambassador, I want to be clear that I had no intention of sparking a philosophical reformation in Xylos society. Of course not, they reassured me. You merely shared a historical account. How we Xylos interpret and apply that history is entirely our responsibility. They paused again, though I must thank you for sharing it. It is rather liberating to consider that adherence does not necessarily mean blindness. Even to a deity. What happens now? I asked, genuinely curious. The review will take several cycles to complete. Simplax will be evaluated on multiple criteria: rate of oversimplification, ability to foster innovation, suitability for complex systems, and impact on user satisfaction. I couldn't help but smile at this user-centric approach. And if Simplax fails this review? Xylos's light tendrils twisted in what I recognized as discomfort. We are not as direct as humans. There will be no divine termination of contract. But there has been discussion about reassigning his portfolio. Perhaps simplicity is not his optimal domain. The council is considering if he might be better suited as a deity of bureaucratic procedure or perhaps a symbol of serene contemplation. A cosmic career change, I suggested. Precisely. Xylos agreed. We are not abandoning our beliefs, merely ensuring our cosmic patron serves the best interests of our species. Sounds quite sensible, Ambassador. We think so too. Their light tendrils shifted in what I recognized as their version of pride. The most fascinating development, however, is Simplax's reaction. Oh, now I'm truly curious. He appears to be adapting already. His manifestations have shifted from demanding unnecessary reduction to emphasizing elegant efficiency and clarity within complex design. It's as if the initiation of a performance review has inspired improved performance. I laughed aloud. That's not too dissimilar to human workplace dynamics. Indeed, it seems even cosmic entities respond to accountability measures. Xylos's light tendrils shifted in what my cultural training identified as their equivalent of a smile. I wanted to inform you of these developments personally, Major, and to thank you. I did nothing, Ambassador. This is entirely your people's initiative. Perhaps, they replied, but you showed us that questioning our gods is not necessarily blasphemy. It can be a form of reverence, an expectation of better from them that honors what they truly should be. After ending the communication, I sat at my desk for a long moment, considering the implications. Humanity's theological evolution had always seemed unique to us, a product of our particularly inquisitive nature and our complex relationship with authority. But perhaps it wasn't so unique after all. Perhaps all sentient species eventually reach a point where they question the cosmic forces supposedly guiding them. Perhaps divine performance reviews were an inevitable stage of theological development. I smiled to myself, imagining a future conference reception where representatives from dozens of species compared notes on how they'd reformed, decommissioned, or reassigned their underperforming deities. Cosmic HR departments evaluating divine KPIs. Gods nervously awaiting their quarterly appraisals. We didn't just strike against our god of simplicity, we kicked off a galactic management revolution. And somewhere out there in the vast cosmos, I couldn't help but think that Aethel, or whatever was left of him, was watching with grudging respect. This is truly fascinating, I said to my AI assistant as I filed my report on the Xylos conversation. There's a certain irony to all of this. What is that, Major? The AI's pleasantly neutral voice inquired. Aethel wanted us to remain forever simple, avoiding all complexity. He thought that made us weak. Based on historical records, that appears accurate, the AI agreed. But the truth is, it's our very ability to confront and manage complexity that advanced us. The more we could master complex things, the more we could create true, functional simplicity. A counterintuitive development, the AI noted. Precisely. Aethel wanted us to remain creatures who only sought the easiest path. But that approach leads to unnecessary mediocrity and stagnation. By becoming more complex, in his eyes, more technological, more autonomous in our approach to problems, we actually became more advanced beings. And more responsible, the AI added. Yes, I agreed. We struck against the god of simplicity not because we hated simplicity, but because we became better at creating it than he was. We outgrew him. The AI was silent for a moment, processing. Major, do you believe other species will follow a similar path? I thought about Ambassador Xylos and the divine performance review they were undertaking. I think it's already happening, I said, and I think it's a good thing. The galaxy will be better off with fewer imposed deities and more species taking responsibility for their own development. Even though humans are known throughout the conference for their capacity for change? Especially because of that, I replied, the best creatures aren't those who always take the easiest path, they're the ones who understand the value of complexity, dare to face it, and choose to master it when necessary. That's what Aethel never understood, and why he ultimately became obsolete. I completed my report and sent it to Fleet Command, knowing they would find the theological developments among the Xylos interesting, if not immediately critical to human interests. As I prepared for my next shift, I found myself wondering about the other gods and cosmic forces that guided the conference's various species. How many of them were overdue for a performance review? How many had adapted to changing circumstances? And how many were clinging to outdated portfolios? One thing was becoming increasingly clear. Divine unemployment might become a significant cosmic issue in the coming centuries. Perhaps the conference should establish a divine re-skilling program. I chuckled at the thought and made a mental note to suggest it to Ambassador Xylos at the next reception. Something told me they'd appreciate the joke. And perhaps, just perhaps, take it seriously. After all, in a universe where gods can be decommissioned for poor performance, anything is possible.